been looking at these lampshades that fit over wine glasses, and I've been seeing lots of them on Pinterest. Most of them are made out of paper, and you can get the templates. There's quite a few of them, and they just appear to be some flat cone of paper that wraps around. But I found a few that looked like they were folded and angled, and it gave me the idea, could I make that using resin? So first of all, I would need to make a template that would fit my glass. Then I would need to make a panel into a mould. I found the best way that I could do that was to use cardboard. But will it work? Working out my template meant using some math. I had to find out what the circumference of my glass was at the top, and then divide that by 6. I had to do the same with the bottom of the shade because I wanted that to flare out into a cone, and I had to decide how long I wanted my shade to come down on the glass. I used Affinity Designer to draw and print my design, and I'm just testing it out now. So I'm creating a template out of paper, sticking the two pieces together. I had to divide it because it wouldn't fit on an A4 sheet otherwise. And I'm just sticking it round and folding it in place, and then I can test it on my wine glass to see if the panel is going to be the right size for my mould. And it fit perfectly. So now I know that I have the right dimensions. I just need to cut out the pieces that I need to make my mould. Okay, so now that I had my template, I had an SVG which I was able to take into Cricut Design Space and cut. So I've cut 5 of them out of 300 GSM cardstock. And in much the same way as I made the Valentine rabbit light box, I'm going to stick these together, and I do want to get right to the edge. And I want to line them up really well. So I'm going to stick all 5 together, and I'll have a look once I've done that to find out whether I need to actually cut any more or whether I think that will be deep enough, because my plan is, once these are stuck together, I want to varnish them, and then I want to see if I can use them to make a silicone mould in the same way that I would any other blank. Once I've got all these glued together, I'll put a weight on top of them and leave them to completely dry, and then I can just put some acrylic varnish on them and try and seal them around all of the edges, well, on all sides, edges and top and bottom. Last piece going on, and then I will have a look and see how deep they are. I'm not going to want my pieces to be too deep. I would say that was probably 4 centimeters, maybe. Millimeters. I'm going to stick this tape that I have on top of it. There we go. That will distribute the weight over all of it. And I'm going to leave that now to completely dry, and then I'll be back when I'm ready to put varnish all over it. Okay, that's fully dried and glued together, and it's glued nice and flat. I do have a slight lip there, if you can see that. So oops, that's easily fixed. I'm just going to take a file, a nail file or paper file, and I'm just going to try and smooth that out a little bit. Okay, that one is a little dipped there too, so it's not too bad, but I've just given them a little smooth along the sides, and I think that will be fine. So it is better to try and get them as even as you can, but it's not always possible, because there is just stacked pieces of paper, but that is better. So now I have some acrylic varnish, and I'm going to give this a coat on all the sides and make sure that it is properly sealed. You do want to use an acrylic varnish. Don't use UV resin, because you can't make silicone molds out of UV products unless you get a specific silicone. But most silicone will be retarded. It won't cure properly if you use UV resin. So I will just coat this and try and get it as smooth as possible, and I will do probably a couple of coats to make sure that I get a nice smooth surface. Letting that dry. Acrylic varnish, this one particularly, which is the Creole, which I've not been able to find since on Amazon, but it dries very quickly. Do some of the sides. I want to make sure I seal it everywhere because I want to stop any bubbles that might pop out from between the layers, and also make sure that it does release. Okay, I'm going to let that dry, and then I will carry on coating it with the varnish, and I'll do that several times. I'll let you know once it's done exactly what I did. See you then. Right, so I've got my pieces and I need to stick them down in something to make my mould. I'm going to use this plastic food tray, and I need to use some double-sided tape to stick the pieces down. So I'm going to stick enough over the back, and any that is overhanging I'm just going to cut off, because I want to make sure that they are thoroughly stuck down. So I'm just going to cut that off. Right to the edge. Same up here. I've just got to put some more down here. Okay, that will do. So let me just stick some more on the other pieces here, and then I can arrange them in my tray. Okay, so they will fit in here. So I'm just going to take the release tape off the back. I'll try to anyway. And then hopefully I can stick them to the base. So this is quite strong double-sided tape, but I don't know how it's going to react with the silicone. So fingers crossed. Put that one in there. Right, let's do this one. So make sure I've got enough room around the edges and press it down firmly. And the last one. Right, so now I just need to work out how much silicone I'm going to need. So I'm going to use a website that I've shown. It has a calculator, volume calculator on it. It's Pi Day volume calculator, and I will use the rectangular volume one. I think maybe 0.75 of a centimetre or 7.5 millimeters will be tall enough in height. So I just need to measure the width. That's going to be 21.5 or 215 millimeters by 175. So I'm going to input that into the calculator, and it will tell me how much I will need in litres, which I will then be able to convert to millilitres. I mixed 140 millilitres of part A and part B to make a total of 280 millilitres. I was using the Nicpro silicone, and it wasn't until later that I noticed it says on the actual bottle to mix by weight and not volume. However, it didn't seem to make any difference to the set, but please do make notice if you're going to do it whether you need to use volume or weight as your mixing measurement. Once they were in the pot together, I stirred slowly for 3 minutes, mixing thoroughly. And then I let it sit for about 2 minutes just to degas a little bit before I poured it into my tray. I made sure that my pieces were pushed down again, so that they were thoroughly stuck. And then I poured in from a height which helps to eliminate bubbles and make sure that it actually gets everywhere, because you don't want to be poking around with a stick afterwards. So I just poured it all over the pieces. And yet again, the calculator came up trumps and I had just the right amount. It was degassing nicely, I could see the bubbles rising, and I had to leave it for 3 to 5 hours to set. Okay, that's all set now. So I'm just going to try and remove it from the tray. Oh, and from my pieces, well, that seems to have worked really well. Okay, I can definitely see the varnish marks on there. I think that would have been, well, unavoidable. But I will be able to top coat my pieces. So now this needs to finish curing, and you shouldn't use it for 24 hours at least. So I'm just going to pop this on a piece of parchment paper and put it over on the side, and once it's had its 24 hours I can try to pour some pieces. And if you come back on Friday, you'll be able to see the results. So thank you very much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up and comment, and I hope to see you on Friday. Bye.